Welcome to another episode of Doing Philosophy, where we are focusing on epistemology. Now, we've already discussed, or at least we began to look at the reality knowledge distinction, and we can see clearly that you have a well-grounded definition of truth by really seeing it as synonymous with existence. Although truth may exist in different domains of discourse, on the level of existence, there's an inequality, an equivalency that can be made here, right? And so I want to take that into the realm of epistemology when we're going to say it's not about some physical reality. What about the reality of language itself? Where can we have two types of truth as well? The answer is yes. We can have two types of truth in epistemology as well. That means within the construct of the mind, within the construct of a movie or a novel, where we can look at things from purely linguistic formulations, we can see the two types of truth: necessary truth and contingent truth, things that are always true. Let's first reflect upon the necessary truths. Examples are a priori truth, analytical truth, and innate truth. A priori means prior to experience. Some things we know to be true prior to experience in virtue of being adults in the world. You walk into a classroom and you see desks in the room. You know it is true a priori. Prior to you entering the room, it is true a priori that someone placed those desks in there. So you know it is necessarily true that someone placed those desks in there. Maybe your mind wants to think of something smaller. You walk in the room and you see a computer monitor on the desk, on the teacher's desk. You know necessarily, you know with certainty that someone placed that monitor there before you entered the room. We're assuming this is the first time you ever entered the room. And a priori truth is like that. In order for something to be true in front of you, you have to reason backward to explain why it is true necessarily. It's sometimes called a philosopher's truth, because philosophers are very good at looking at things backwards. This is answers the question why. Why is something the way it is? That's an a priori truth. It's a very important notion of truth within philosophy. Socrates, the father of philosophy, used this to defend his view of reality, which ultimately gives rise or the strong direction of Western philosophy. Analytical truth. To analyze is to break something down to the smallest component. So it's like understanding something in detail. Consider the statement, bachelors are unmarried men. You know what the word bachelors mean. You know what the words unmarried men mean. When you put them together to form a sentence, bachelors are unmarried men, you have an analytically true statement. The statement is true in virtue of the meaning of the words alone. Consider this one that's equally valid. Consider the numbers 7 times 7 is equal to 49. That statement is true. It's a mathematical statement. How is it true? It is true analytically. By understanding the meaning and values of those numbers there, and the operator, the multiplier, and the equality sign, you know the statement is necessarily true. You don't need to consult the world. 7 times 7 is 49 necessarily. Why? Because it's an analytical truth. Deductive arguments in general come into this category. Innate truth. For our purposes, there are two definitions in philosophy. The one that we're going to be using primarily is the Cartesian answer, Descartes' answer. The innate truth is something that's true in virtue of intuition. You eat a piece of chocolate cake. You like it. You're being aware that you like it. It's a necessary truth. It's your truth, but it's necessarily true. Because you could have easily bit into the chocolate cake and realize you don't like it. And then it would also be necessarily true that you don't like the cake. The necessity comes because of the presence in front of you. It's there. You can see that. It's like a fact, but a fact is external to your senses. You see it out there. Here you're seeing something in your inner space. And in this way, we could speak with certainty about things, certain things about ourselves. We like this food, we don't like that food, we like that person, we don't like that person, we like that movie, don't like that movie. There are many things in that category. The second definition I'm not going to emphasize much in this course here, is the idea that Socrates brought to us, that when we come into the world, we come into the world with information and information about the world. And this is innate truth, all right? And although Socrates said this and is interpreted as innate ideas, Socrates primarily looked at a priori truths, so that he thought that if you see something in the world and you can reason backwards to it, you would discover it. And so there is some confusion whether he meant innate truth to be an a priori truth. That is, they can look to be very much the same if you're using pure logic. But innate truth can give us what we call necessary truth. On the other side of the coin, we have the contingent truths that are temporary in nature in some sense of the word. A posteriori truth, synthetic truth, empirical truth. A posteriori means after experience. A posteriori, after experience. A priori, before experience. So you walk into the classroom and you see the computer monitor on the teacher's desk. You could think a posteriori, what's going to happen to that computer monitor in 3 years or 5 years? What's the school going to do to it? If you're thinking about what's going to happen to the future, that computer monitor in the future, you're thinking a posteriori, and you're going to get to a posteriori truth. If you know their methodology and procedures of how they treat their computers over time, you can, and you know when this computer is purchased, you can determine when that computer will be removed from the classroom unless it has prior mechanical problems. If you say, I'm going to have lunch with my friend today at noon, you're thinking a posteriori. It's an a posteriori truth. You believe you're going to have a friend lunch. It's not a fact. It's not occurring right now. It's a belief about the future. These are a posteriori truths. Truths about the future are true a posteriori, and we do have them. A synthetic truth. A synthesis is to see the whole, the big picture. Synthetic truths, to illustrate them more easily, occur in brand names. A Cadillac is a synthetic truth. A Mercedes is a synthetic truth. A Lamborghini is a synthetic truth. These are just names that labels vehicles, cars, automobiles. They all have wheels. They all have engines. They have paint colors. They have seats. They have steering wheels. But what makes a Mercedes different from a Cadillac? Makes a Cadillac different from a Lamborghini? It's a synthetic truth. It's truth. It goes beyond the sum of all its parts. That's a synthetic truth. When you read an essay, it's a synthetic truth. Scientific theories, like evolutionary theory, is a synthetic truth. The theory itself is a description of the result of all the investigation and all the experiment that has been conducted to support that theory. It's a synthetic truth. So it is temporary in that sense, right? Empirical truths. That's the factual truth, the things you observe with your senses. In what sense is it temporary? Well, if you never walked into the classroom, that particular classroom, you never seen the desks in the classroom, and you never seen the computer monitor in that classroom. There is a sense that life experiences, because they're unique to you at a certain time, are contingent. It's a contingent on you going to that place at that particular time. If you've never traveled to Hawaii, as you listen to this video right now, or you listen to my lecture here, then you do not have any empirical knowledge of Hawaii. You've never been there. You never experienced it. So since experience occurs over time, they can all be treated as contingent. Even though when you're in the moment of the experience, it definitely is necessary. I'm having this experience right now. But the time of the experience can be seen as empirical. Sense experience in general is treated as empirical in nature. So in this sense, within the context of language, writing a novel, creating a movie, we use these concepts. Inside your mind, you must have the same sort of things, or you should have the same sort of things. And we divide these two in two because our 6 theories of knowledge are going to be using various versions or aspects of these senses of truth. Now that we've journeyed into the 2 types of truth in epistemology, I'm going to close the gap and move to the connection between all of this, okay? I want to look at the connection between reality and knowledge. I want to look at that in detail.